All right, let's walk through the syllabus together. At the beginning, you will see my contact information, which you guys already have. If you ever need to meet with me face to face about course stuff, then just email me and we'll set up an appointment. It's no problem. Just a little bit of information. Here we've got course description. We are going to be looking at crisis, trauma, and disaster situations that counselors work in. We're also going to spend the last third of the semester on grief and loss. So the first two-thirds or so are going to be around the crisis stuff, and then the last third will be around grief and loss. You see the three textbooks there. I think that for some reason the bookstore got confused and only put two up, but these three are required, and I believe that all three of them together actually total about what many of you have paid for one book, so hopefully that will help, but these are all three required. The student learning outcomes, a lot of them do come from CACREP standards. I would love for you guys to really spend some time looking through that because the things that we have set up are really meant to have you learn these things. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. All right, so this course is primarily online, except for the simulations that we're going to be doing, and we'll talk about those in a moment. And because it's online and it's also a graduate course, your learning is certainly much more your responsibility. You've got to be highly self-directed and motivated to get your stuff done because we're not going to be meeting face to face. It's all going to be up to you. Now, I do have on, and I'll show this to you, you'll see this right here. I do have on our D2L site a discussion board called General Questions. So any questions that you have about the course at all, post them there. Don't email them to me. Post them there, and that way everyone in the course can hear the response from me. And also feel free to, if someone poses a question and you think you know the answer, to answer it for me. But anyway, we'll go through that as we in another screencast. All right, so each week, as you see, there's going to be a learning module. There'll be reading required. There'll be voice threads that you will watch that will reinforce that learning. And then there'll be a discussion board. And the discussion boards, I'm going to require you to post at least twice. One will be your original post, your answer to whatever the prompt is for that post, your original post, and those are due, your original post is due each week by Wednesday evening at 11:59 p.m. And then that gives us, everyone, time to reply to someone else. The reason for this is the discussion boards are really the dialogue piece of our class. And I really have in the past found this method of doing discussion boards to promote extremely rich dialogue that enhances everyone's learning. So you have your original post that's due by Wednesday night, and then at least one reply to someone else by Sunday evening at 11:59 p.m. So each module will start on Monday and end on Sunday. You will also see, and I'll show you on D2L, that there is a rubric for the discussion boards, and I will be using those to grade your discussion boards. All right, one of the things that I think is going to be really important in this course is to pay particular attention to yourself. We're going to be covering some highly heavy material in this course, as you can imagine. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things that cause trauma, crisis, and grief. So this is going to be a very emotionally heavy course that may promote or produce some anxiety within yourselves. And so I want you to, 4 times this semester, write as if you were writing in a journal. And I also have a rubric for your journal, so that'll give you some kind of guidelines. But really, this is designed to help you identify and explore um, the things that you're experiencing while you're going through this class. Um, and any of those attitudes or values or behaviors or emotions that might really impede your work with your clients. So that's what this is about. All right, the real meat of this course are going to be the simulations, and there are two of them. And simulation is just what it sounds like. We are going to really put together two experiences for you that are meant to be almost as real as they can be. Um, Now, ACA has made disaster and trauma counseling a priority education and practice focus, the American Counseling Association. Um, and so we're going to actually participate in a mock disaster simulation with the rest of the College of Health Sciences and Professions. And so we're going to actually have a mock tornado disaster that's going to take place on the Gainesville campus. You will act as first responders with nursing students and physical therapy students to actually help people. I believe it's going to be set up as if the disaster has recently occurred. They're going to actually make it look like that a building has collapsed and people are going to be hurt and they're going to be in crisis. So there's a training that will happen on Wednesday, February the 22nd, that you'll be required to go to that. And then the mock disaster itself will be Wednesday, March 8th. I'm really looking forward to this. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for you to really experience a lot of what counselors are doing out in the field and really get a feel for what it's like to help someone who's in the first parts of a crisis. A lot of times in counseling, people will come later after they've become emotionally stable, unless you're working for like a crisis hotline. But in this case, you'll be able to really experience what it's like. So you'll do that. You'll get trained well, so you'll know what to do. And then after that simulation, I'm going to ask you to write a reflection paper that's going to be two parts. One's going to be an academic part, which you can see here. I want you to use references from the book and from the literature to really make this an academic portion. You're going to compare and contrast what you had learned in class about disaster mental health to what you actually experienced in the mock disaster. And then I want you to also evaluate your effectiveness of using the skills that we've learned in that class. All right, and then the personal reflection portion you see here, describe your inner experience. How did it affect what you did? How has this experience influenced your thoughts about your future work with clients? And how did this experience influence your thoughts about your own areas of needed growth? So that will be the paper that you'll write after this experience. The other simulation you'll see here is we're going to actually simulate an emergency room situation where in teams of 3, you will act as a team to actually assess someone who has been in an accident, and you'll assess their mental status, and it'll be again on the Gainesville campus. Our college has a virtual hospital there. It looks just like a small hospital wing, and there are counselors who work in emergency rooms and do assessments of people and determine whether they need to be admitted or not. So we're going to set that up for you. We're going to have actual actors who are playing the role of the clients who come into the emergency room. And you see here there are 3 roles on each team, and one is going to be the actual counselor, one will be someone who documents everything, and then another person will be an observer who will be taking notes of the process. And then as a team, you will come up with a diagnosis, and determine whether the person should be admitted to the hospital for inpatient care or whether their outpatient treatment will be appropriate. So after that simulation, as a team, you'll create a paper. You'll critique your team's work, and you'll see an outline here. And then you'll create a treatment plan for the client, and there's an outline here as well. All right. So those are the two simulations that are happening. I do have some dates for the emergency room simulation, so you'll want to go ahead and reserve those. We'll figure out who's going when. Each simulation will probably take about an hour. But you'll either go on March 29th, which I believe is also a Wednesday. It'll be in the morning or early afternoon, or you'll go on April 12th. Which is also a Wednesday, either in the morning or early afternoon. So mark off all of those on your calendar. Wednesday, February 22nd, March 8th, March 29th, and April 12th. All right, the last project will be for the grief portion. Actually going to ask you to, I'm going to give you a grief scenario. Each of you will have a different scenario. You'll be assigned a different situation. What I'm going to ask you to do then is create, you see this here, there's a description and rationale. So dig into the literature to support each part of the section. I want you to explain what clients may be experiencing during the grieving process. Then you should synthesize the literature regarding any research or best practices in working with clients experiencing that type of loss. And then I'm going to ask you to actually create a very complex treatment plan, not your usual treatment plan. I want you to really expand upon that. And you'll see here all the explanations on what to do for that. Now, once I get all of these from you at the end of the semester, I'm going to actually put them all together in one workbook, and then each of you will have a grief counseling interventions workbook, so that you can take that with you for different grief experiences, and you'll have, these things that you can take with you to use in your practice. So I think hopefully that'll be a worthwhile thing. Under course evaluation, you see the points. The discussion boards are 10 points apiece. There's 15 of those. You got 4 reflective journals, as I said, and then your 3 papers. Just note, I don't know if you've noticed this before, but A's and B's are what they've always been probably in your career, 90 to 100, 80 to 89. But a C is actually no less than 75. Hopefully none of you will make any C's, but if you've never noticed that before, D is 70 to 74, and anything below a D is an F. All right, course policies, late papers, just don't get them to me late, okay? Because then you're going to really miss out a whole lot of points. 20% deduction for each 24-hour period is late. So that's a lot. Obviously, in our discussion boards, we're going to treat each other with respect, openness, and honesty. If you have a documented disability and you need some support, let me know. If you think that you might need some support, then you can contact the Student Disability Services here in Dahlonega. There's the honor code. I do use Turnitin for all papers. It automatically tells me how much of a paper has been copied from sources from the internet. If a certain percentage shows up, I will look very closely at the paper. So do your own work, please, so that I don't have to do that. All right, technology problems. We're going to talk about that when we in another screencast. But make sure that you are not scheduling your online work when D2L is scheduled to be have maintenance. But I'll show you that in D2L. There's a link to it so you'll know exactly when schedule maintenance is. All right, and then here we have our class schedule. Each module you'll see, I'll have the dates for the module, what the topic is, what the readings are, any voice threads, when everything is due, or when it ends, when that module ends, and then what the discussions and other assignments due are. So each week, the first thing that you'll want to do in the module is read. This course has a lot of reading and a lot of writing. That's what this course is mainly going to be, other than the simulations. A lot of reading and a lot of writing. Reading sets the foundation for your learning in my courses. I set up each module to actually take each student through a cycle of learning, and reading is the baseline. If you do not read, or you skip around too much and you don't understand it, then you're missing the base of learning that's going to take place. Voice threads then reinforce and expand on the learning. Discussions help apply the learning. And assignments also evaluate and synthesize material. So you're going through a whole cycle of learning almost every week. And that's the purpose of the way that I create courses. So make sure that you're doing your reading, even though it is a lot. All right, let's see. So that's pretty much it for the syllabus. You'll see here Journal 1 is due at the end of Module 3. So anything that's due will be due at the end of that module, not at the beginning. So in this case, Journal 1 is due on January 29th, which is the end of Module 3. And the journals go about every 3 modules. Let's see, there's Journal 2, Journal 3, then we have spring break, and then the grief part comes in. Mock disaster paper is due the week after spring break, again at the end of the module. So there's going to be quite a bit here due at the end of the semester. Emergency room simulation paper is due the last week of classes, and then the grief counseling interventions piece is due the week of final exams. All right, so I hope this is helpful. If you have questions about the syllabus itself, then use that general questions discussion board.